Hey guys, and welcome back to the Midlife Awakening. My name is Adelia and I'm your host. I'm so grateful that you're here. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. I've missed you. And if you're joining me for the first time, I'm really glad you found your way here. This is a podcast about transformation for women who are waking up to who they really are while navigating everything that comes with midlife. Today I'm joined by someone whose story I know will deeply resonate with many of you, health and nutrition coach Arianna Morgan. Arianna's journey is one of resilience, reinvention, and reclaiming health on her own terms. At just 33, she was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis while also navigating the pressures of a demanding corporate career. That experience led her to uncover the powerful connection between lifestyle, nutrition, and chronic illness, especially in a world where women's health is still so under-researched. In her 40s, Arianna received a late ADHD and autism diagnosis, which brought clarity to years of masking, perfectionism, and living in survival mode. That diagnosis became the catalyst for her to step away from a 20-year career in content creation and behavior change and begin rebuilding her life from the inside out. Today, Arianna draws on both her professional expertise and her lived experience to help women in midlife navigate the layered challenges of autoimmune conditions, hormonal shifts, burnout, and neurodiversity. She is passionate about functional nutrition, identity, and empowering women to reclaim their energy, focus, and voice. In our conversation, Arianna shares her story with so much honesty and insight, reminding us that midlife can be a turning point, a time not just of struggle, but of rediscovery and possibility. So let's dive in. Here's my conversation with Arianna Morgan. Arianna, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. And maybe you can start off by just sharing a little bit about your journey and what has led you to focus on health, nutrition, and supporting women at this stage in their lives.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk about this stuff. I could talk about it all day, literally. So, thank you so much for the opportunity. Really, what led me to this place is kind of a very long backstory, but I'll give you the short version. I think growing up, I always knew I didn't feel quite right. I'd get like a lot of stomach issues. I had eczema, and I always just felt under par. And I think when you've always felt a certain way, you don't know any different, really. So I kind of went through these just sort of phases of just feeling a little bit kind of low energy, or have this flare up of eczema, and we didn't really know much about those things then. So you kind of just carried on, sort of putting up with it, really. And it was only in my 30s where I kind of had the perfect storm of a new baby, setting up a business and trying to do everything possible all at once, that I burnt out. I burnt out emotionally, I burnt out physically. I had so much inflammation in my body, and I got a diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis, which is an autoimmune condition where your body attacks its own joints. So this was a real wake-up call for me, because I'd kind of been skirting that line pretty much a lot of my life, where I was burning the candle at both ends in my 20s, going out partying and drinking, and then kind of doing long hours in the office, trying to climb that corporate ladder, and really sort of then going into motherhood and not really ever thinking about my body and what I was actually doing to it by working in this way or living in this way. And it was only when I had that diagnosis and I'd gone through the normal route, which is you get the blood test, you get the diagnosis, you get sent to a rheumatologist, that I was offered the first line treatment, which is a drug which basically just drops your immune system so low that you're actually susceptible to so many different things. I was basically told you're going to be sick all the time. You're going to catch flus and colds and everything going. And I remember thinking, God, there's got to be another way. Surely not that, it's either inflammation and joint pain, or, chronically feeling under the weather, which, I kind of had a little bit of anyway throughout my life. So it led me to seek out a naturopathic and MD doctor. That basically means a doctor that's trained medically and naturopathically. So she had the best of both worlds, and she wasn't, sort of one-minded in one way. She had all the tools available, and she was going to help me the best she could. And she set me off on a a paleo diet, which is basically like a whole food diet where you cut away the foods that are likely to inflame somebody. And these are the culprits, like typical stuff is dairy, gluten, even, refined sugars, flour, those kind of things, the things that kind of, are common culprits that set off inflammation in the body.
Yeah.
And it really kind of was a big epiphany for me because it opened my eyes to the fact that there was actually something I could do to influence my health. And I'd never thought of it that way before. And I think it's a bit like you kind of born into this construct of life. You kind of go and, you live by these rules, you believe what you've been told, and you don't think outside of that. And this was really that epiphany that made me think, gosh, there's other ways to do that. And just that in itself was like it was a great way to open your mind to be able to think in different ways. And that was the turning point for me, that I really thought, you know what, there's other ways to do things in life. I was not living consciously before that, if that makes sense. I was just living, I was just flowing along. And then it made me think, I've got to live consciously. And through that diet, I felt so good. And I can tell you now, as crazy as it sounds, I felt better than I'd ever felt in my whole life. And that's a big statement. And that shows that even with a chronic condition, that was able to feel more energy, better skin, better health, better gut, motility, all of the things that I'd struggled with, all of a sudden got better with a change in diet. And that for me was just the sign that this is so powerful and so unknown to people that I've got to get into this space. And it took me about 12 years to come back to that space and do it professionally, which is what I'm doing now. But yes, that's kind of the turning point for me, was about 12 years ago.
Yeah. And that's interesting because I think a lot of people don't realize that the real thing with autoimmune diseases is that it's not just that you've got the one autoimmune disease, that you then become susceptible to so much more because the immune system is so, it's not functioning. It's not functioning the way it should. And so that's really, it's really key that you mentioned that. And that we should really have that curious mind about our health. And we have to be advocates for our health, because I feel like the medical profession is definitely there for a reason, but we also need to feel empowered through food, because food is medicine at the end of the day, isn't it? And I think we're coming to that realization now, I think.
I think you're right. I think medicine does an amazing job, with a lot of conditions. I think the problem is now we've seen such an increase in lifestyle related disease and the decrease in communicable diseases, things that we originally got, antibiotics for. Those are the things we now are very good at stopping, but we've forgotten to, well, we haven't forgotten, but we've just left, our backs to all of these other conditions that are now actually, very much influenced by lifestyle. So a lot of people will say genetics, but your genetics are pliable to an extent. For example, we know a bit about epigenetics now, the fact that, the way you live your life can switch on or off different genes, and that can really have a different projection in your future, how you live your life. It can be very different depending on the choices you make. And I would say, it's obviously easy we have a lot of people blame, the doctors and the GPs, but they have just gone through a system. Everybody has their speciality of way of doing things. And it's the system that's broken, the system that's not set up correctly. It's not their fault. You go and see a GP, they're not there to tell you about diet and lifestyle, although some are aware of this now and a bit more kind of open-minded to it. But years ago, when I go and say, oh, I've got an intolerance, they'd say, there's no such thing. It's either an allergy. That's the only thing we can prove. There's no such thing as an intolerance. And I would say, well, why is it then when I have gluten and dairy that I get a complete massive flare-up? When I don't have it, I feel much better. And it's because there's the way they've been taught is this is the way we this is what we know, and we're not getting outside that lane. And that's the way they have to do things. But it's almost like we need an intervention before you get there. Like a coach, for example, a health and nutrition coach can tell you, these are the things you could try, we're not like, instead of a doctor, it's just doctors and health and nutritionists can work together.
Yeah, work in tandem.
To really give you a complementary suite of advice, medication, whatever they need to have for their condition. But I think it's about being, not so binary. in when managing your health. There's so many different things you can do, and it's very empowering as an individual to be able to influence your health. It's like magic. It really feels that way.
Absolutely. And I mean, you've done wonders for yourself. So, that's your story tells that. So you've lived at this intersection of chronic disease, motherhood, climbing the corporate ladder, all of these things that most women these days, we're faced with. So how did those experiences shape the way that you see health and wellness in your midlife?
Oh, it's kind of like the the thought in your mind that you want to go back and give that person a good talking to, with also the kindness and compassion that I'm learning to have for myself. So it's kind of that dichotomy of feelings. Obviously, it would be amazing if I had the hindsight knowledge now that I did back then that I have now, but obviously we can't do that. So I have to, take on this kind of, kind approach to myself. I can only know what I know. And I came to this journey for a reason. And maybe that's the reason is so I can help other people prevent this situation happening to them. But ultimately, if somebody had told me back then, it probably wouldn't have made much difference, because you have to come to that decision when you're ready. And that's the kind of thing that I've had to learn myself, because often, we get sort of, we kind of hear this white noise of information because there's so much out there, and it's only really when it's important that was, oh yeah, they told me I should try that, and I should have tried that, and you've got to come to it when you're ready. So it was like the perfect storm, really, of everything coming together. And I kind of was trying to be everything to everyone, and I think so many women do this.
We do.
Really put ourselves at the bottom of the pile. And the kind of analogy I have is you are the center of the wheel. You're like that middle piece of the wheel. If that breaks, the spokes break, the wheel breaks, the wheels come off the car. We are not talking about a small thing here. You are central to everyone's lives. And that is just, the way I think women pick up the slack for everybody. To a fault, because we always forget to do those things for ourselves. And I think I'm not quite sure where this has come from in a societal way, because I feel like it's not just me. I see it in a lot of my friends. And I feel like that's something we need to work on. We need to talk about it, because if we just say it's okay for you to come first, we allow ourselves to come first just now and again, then we can stop these things, happening, and we can stop people burning out. Because really it's about being aware of yourself and not ignoring those signs, because your body is telling you stuff and you need to listen.
Yeah, and we don't because we're so busy putting everybody else first. Yeah, it's an epidemic for women that we need to stop.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Agreed.
Now, you shared that you were diagnosed with ADHD in your 40s, so midlife. And this seems to be, for many women, seems to be a common theme that we're seeing now. And just, I want to talk a little bit about finally getting those answers for you. So what was it like for you to receive that diagnosis?
Well, I actually had both autism and ADHD diagnosis. So I think it is life-changing. It's a grieving process. It's so much you have to go through. I'm still going through it. Literally now, I'm still going through the acknowledgement and the acceptance of such a thing. Growing up with dyslexia, ADHD, and autism left me feeling like, on one hand, I feel so much more mature and sensible and older than my peers at school. But on the other hand, I don't get this questions that they're asking me. I'm getting 0 out of 10 on my spelling. I must be stupid. How is that dichotomy working? These seem like infantile children to me, and I'm like 5 years old and I feel so much more mature than them, but I can't get the spelling right, and I misinterpret the questions that are being asked to answer. I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. I don't understand how they're playing together. I'm going to watch those children interact. That seems really odd. I don't understand, the way the things they're talking about seem so superficial. I don't get them. I played with boys because boys were really easy to understand, because with the girls there was a lot of stuff which was was inferred. You had to read between the lines. And with autism, you want the direct. You don't understand the nuances. I was like, there's something off with me. I'm not right. I'm not right, you know.
Yeah.
And I took that into my workplace, and I was like, no, I'm going to be the best. And we did an insights report, which is one of these personality types in my corporate role.
Right, yes.
There are 4 types. You get the green, which is like your warm and your caring sort of side. There's the yellow, which is like the sunshine, the people person. You've got your red, which is your leader, and you've got your blue, which is like attention to detail. I filled in the questionnaire and I got it back. And it was describing, basically, imagine a sergeant major. It was like, gets the job done, leaves no one behind, helps the teammates, you know, like literally first one to answer the email, first one to get to put their hand up and, you know, say, yes, I want to do the task. I'm like, you know, this like Energizer bunny on steroids for like doing my work. And then I get home and I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I am proving there's not something wrong with me to me. And everyone in my job thinks I'm like this machine that gets stuff done.
Masking all day.
Masking all day. And for me, I have so much empathy for people and so much care and so much love. And to not have any of the green and yellow in my results, I was like, that's not me. That's so weird. That's not me. But then I realized that I have, you know, this hyper focus where I can get stuff done. And if I've got my mind on, I need to finish this job today, I'm going to work till it's done, you know, and that's kind of like a, you know, sergeant major. And then there's, you know, times where somebody will say they're having a bad day, a friend, and I'll be over there and spend the day with them, take their mind off it. And I'm like, okay, I can be both things. So what is going on here? Anyway, so I kind of got through these phases, these ebbs and flows of kind of figuring myself out, but not really understanding. And it was only last year when I got my diagnosis and then understanding what that means to have both, because the ADHD is like the novel, the excitement, the kind of hyperfocus. You can hyperfocus with autism as well, but it's like you can like get into the zone and really fixate. And with the autism, it's very binary. It's like black and white, trying to, you know, when people have sarcasm, you might not understand that it was a joke. You're very ordered, you're very like methodical. So you can imagine if you've got both, they're like opposing sides. You feel like you're being constantly pulled and pushed. And it's almost like, which one am I going to be today? You know, which one is driving the bus effectively? And that's why a diagnosis is very difficult, because each one of them is hindering or helping the other one. So you get the social aspect of ADHD, you know, and I would go out and have a drink, and then the ADHD dopamine would hit, and I'd be like the party animal. And then I'd be like, you know, the serious one at home when I was doing something with when the autism was driving the bus. So yeah, it was very difficult to sort of, I didn't meet people and they describe themselves, oh, I'm shy or I'm an introvert and I'm an extrovert. And I'd be like, I don't know what I am. And it would really like mess with my head that I couldn't really say, what is Arianna? So having the diagnosis after my children had theirs, which is always the way it goes, you know, in this generation, I think the kids get it and then they get told it's genetic. Yeah, it's really difficult because you reframe what you know about yourself through the lens of this new diagnosis, and you then feel bad that you beat up on yourself because it wasn't your fault. And this was really part of my self-acceptance journey. And from that point of view, if you're a person who has ADHD or autism and you are happy and you've gone through your life thinking, maybe I have, but I've my neurodiversity has actually been my superpower, because a lot of people say it is. And it helped me be nerdy about my job, which I do and I love, and my business, and meet those people like that and sail through life. You don't need the diagnosis. Get it if you want, but you don't need it. But if you're a person who's always felt like I have, then having that really helps you to reframe things. And then you grieve a lot, because you want to go back to that little girl who's having those terrible thoughts about themselves. Say, it's okay. It's not your fault.
Yeah, and that was one of the questions I was going to ask, because I'll be honest, for myself, I suspect I might have ADHD. But for me, it's been do I need the diagnosis? What is that actually going to help? So would you say to someone who's sort of in that position, who suspects they might have ADHD or autism?
It's a good question. And I think it's like anything, it's very individualized. Like me growing up, always feeling a little bit under par, then having, a lifestyle change and feeling, oh my God, this is what healthy people feel like, because I'd always felt so just kind of not quite right. So for me, it's like I don't have to have this negative self-talk, and a lot of it is coming from me saying, oh, ADHD is driving the bus today. I've procrastinated. I'm so bad. I'm so bad about myself. It's like, no, you're procrastinating. Okay, that's fine. You have ADHD. Just it validates, that you're okay as a human being, just as you are, and you're not alone. And there are other people out there who understand you. I think that's the biggest problem, not being understood. Not being understood. And it helps me explain myself to you, to other people. I'm sorry I'm late. It's my ADHD. It's true. It's the time blindness. You kind of think you've got a long time, and how is it 5 minutes before and I'm not even left yet? So yeah.
That's a great way to think of it, I think, is that just getting that validation and, the grieving process, because I mean, I can totally resonate with that feeling like there's something wrong with you. Why can't I be like everybody else? Why can't I just like get my shit together? Or you can do it for a little while with the hope of hyper focus, and then it all sort of crumbles again. So it never lasts.
The feeling like you don't know who's going to show up on the day. So I can't plan that I'm going to do an essay for my course on Wednesday evening, because on Wednesday evening I could decide that I really, really want to rearrange my cupboards, and I have to do that then. It's like that kind of thing. So I have to kind of have a week where I know I've got to do X amount of tasks, and I kind of have them floating around in my head a little bit, and then, okay, I think today I could probably sit down and focus on that. And that's the way I work. And that is a strategy. And strategies are really important when you are dealing with neurodiversity. So that understanding yourself creates the strategies. That's why I think it's important.
So let's talk a little bit about the mind-body connection, because we started off on that and I want to come back to that. So can you share how our emotional well-being shows up physically and how you help women to bridge that gap?
So it's very complicated. So if you think about the body, if you talk to someone who's a specialist in one area, they'll tell you about the system in the body that they know about. And we only know so much about the body and the mind and the gut, and they're all connected, but we don't really understand the interplay to anything more than a very scratching the surface level. So if I go to a neuroscientist, he's going to tell me that ADHD is to do with my brain. If I go to a therapist, they're going to tell me that my ADHD is to do with childhood trauma. If I go to a rheumatologist, they're going to tell me my rheumatology is just my body attacking itself. It's just partly genetic, and there's going to be an environmental trigger. So all of these people are working in isolation. But what we can see, and we're only just learning about it, is that the negative thoughts that we have in our body create stress. So if you're stressed about something, it affects your breathing. If it affects your breathing, it affects your fight or flight system. And all of these things cause stress, and stress can lead to a fluctuation in hormones. It can lead to you holding on to body fat. There are so many different things that are connected that you can just put a lot of, how you're physically feeling connected back to what's happening to you mentally.
Wow,
and I think
amazing,
I mean, having a whole pillared approach, which is what I try and do, really kind of tackles all of the things at once. That's what, the lifestyle thing is. I know it's a word we kind of bandy around, but it's your sleep. Because when you sleep and you have enough REM, your body is active in REM and it burns fat. People who think they can just cut sleep and still, they're looking to lose weight, and they can't understand why, especially when you're dealing with hormones, this is, a huge factor, your sleep. getting sunlight, being outside. We're all inside, we're all sitting down, we're sedentary. Movement is so important. The food we eat. So, don't even get me started on like the 90s diet culture and low fat. We need fat. Women need fat in their bodies, and it's not going to make you fat. Good fats do not make you fat. They help regulate your hormones. And, alcohol is a huge issue with our demographic and our age. Women drinking far too much, and that creates, an imbalance in your hormones. I had very high estrogen, and not the good kind, the one that's, linked with cancer, because I was drinking too much.
Wow.
And, it's so normalized in this country and Western cultures to drink. It's even encouraged. I mean, I've seen videos of women with these sort of cups, and they put a tea bag string and fill it up with wine. I'm like, off to, soccer mom, off to see the boys play football. And it's like, haha, that's so funny. It's like, that's alcoholism, that's not cool, especially if you're driving the car.
Yeah.
So I think we've normalized the drinking so much that it's a problem. And it's so accepted that even when I spoke to my GP, she said it's a conversation that GPs don't even want to have.
Oh, wow.
Because, it's a difficult one. Yeah, it's a very difficult one. So tying that all back to what you asked me about the kind of physical symptoms, all of these things, all of these lifestyle things will affect the way your brain works. And the way your brain works is going to affect the way your body works. And then the way your body works is going to affect your energy. And it's all working together.
Yeah, it's all tied in.
It's cellular level. Yes, hormones, cellular level, your hydration, your nutrition, that's such an important thing. And I was eating really well, but I was drinking, and that's just going to deplete, my body of the vitamins from the really nice, nutrient dense organic food that I'm spending a lot of money on, really to just divert my digestion to my liver to clear it out of the alcohol and not be able to absorb. Because your body can't do the two jobs, simultaneously. So it's going to first go, oh my gosh, there's a load of toxins. Let's get rid of those first. Yeah. And then your digestive system just gets very sluggish. Yeah. So there's a lot of interplay with everything. And I think really beginning with self-acceptance, because without accepting yourself, you can't change. It's a famous quote, actually. And I think what it means is you have to say, this is who I am and where I am right now, and I'm not going to beat up on myself. And it just takes off. I always think of Atlas with the world on his shoulders, and talking about physically how that turns up. I've got a lot of problems with my upper back, and I'm constantly trying to, when I work out, trying not to engage my shoulders and traps, because it's stress. It's stress. You hold your tension. So if you see someone like this, they're not relaxed, and I'm constantly thinking about these things, because physically it hurts, I'm unable to train properly if I can't relax, if I can't breathe, and if I can't, just get my body to work in harmony. So all of this comes from what's going on up here. And most of the time we're thinking about stuff subconsciously. Yeah. And we don't know we don't know what's being said up there. So we have to tune in to our thoughts, and we have to reframe the narrative. And I think it's good to have friends. And I think this is like a really important thing for anyone, but particularly women at this age. You need friends who really support you. You need that sense of community. You need someone to say, you're doing a great job. I'm proud of you. Because that is just a little bit of encouragement you need to turn that negative self-talk off, or think, oh my gosh, someone recognized something in me, and that makes me feel good. So having friends have your back is huge.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yes.
So I really loved what you said there about like how our subconscious mind sort of links into everything else, and we really need to start being conscious about our thoughts and what we're thinking.
I think it's the lifestyle we live as well. It's not set out to really support us to be healthy. If you think about, can you imagine generations ago, you'd be living next door to your grandmother and your auntie and your cousins, and you're all part of a very loving, supportive community where they love you because you're family, but they're also different to you, and they can pass down information to you or help you when you've just had a baby. And we don't have that anymore. Everybody's very disparate in the world. Families fly out and live overseas, and you've got a missing part of your tribe. Humans have evolved in tribes to really survive. And if you think about how we've evolved over time, we haven't, as our bodies and minds have not evolved in line with the lifestyle that we're living. And so it's very much it's very counterintuitive the way we live to our evolutionary bodies and minds. And I think just trying to accept that the life is not set up really for the best practice of human beings. And then it takes the pressure off you a little bit, but it also gives you the opportunity then to create your own communities. So, the saying, it takes a village, it's so true.
Absolutely.
And I think you've got to create that village. And then back to the mindset stuff, I think another thing that's really important is if you think about what's around us, is the world is in a state of depression and misery and wars and politics, and there's so much happening. If you tune into that, you're going to think like that. It's not to say don't be aware, but it's about focusing your mind on the things that you can control and that matter to you. And also practicing gratitude is really important. Reframe your day. What went well? Don't just think about the things that went wrong, because there are so many things we could focus on that are negative. And it's about really kind of relearning to look at the positives, which is not naturally instinctive for everybody. It depends on your mindset, but it will help you to be grateful for what you do have and the life you do have and the good things about it.
Absolutely. Well said. Thank you so much. I mean, that's amazing. And the gratitude piece, that's really important. I think we tend not to do that. We get so focused in on the negative, because the negative is just so much easier. So do you have some
so much of it.
Yeah. Do you have some grounding strategies or simple practices that listeners could try and regulate and reconnect to themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing I would say is in the morning when you wake up. I'm naturally kind of a positive person in the morning. I know firsthand that not everybody is like that. I think there are two distinct camps of people.
Yeah.
But I think it's about waking up and almost saying, whether you're spiritual or not, just say out loud, I'm grateful for another day. Just something like that. Or say it in your head if you feel a bit self-conscious that your family's going to think you've gone a bit woo-woo. But, it's about framing your day for, it's going to be a good day. I'm grateful for another day. Today is an opportunity, a day is a chance, right? It's a chance to do something good. It's a chance to live. It's a chance to have fun. It's a chance to be kind of intentional. So you got to think, like I said before, when I was coasting through life, I wasn't intentional. If you start off your day just thinking something intentional, today's a good day, I'm grateful for another day. What I really like to do is get outside in the morning. And I know that sounds great now, where it's kind of tailing off the end of summer, but you can imagine in the thick of winter, it's not such a kind of exciting prospect. But what it does is it just grounds you with nature. It grounds you with your circadian rhythm. And I know we don't have a sunrise until much later in the winter, but whatever you can do to sink into your rhythm, that really helps you to set yourself up for a good day, because your rhythms of your body, you need to keep yourself as kind of rhythmic and natural as possible. And that's the way you start your day. I think win the morning, win the day. I love saying this. So yeah, I would say be grateful, say thank you for a new day. It's going to be a good day. Go outside. If you have a coffee, whatever you do, let the dogs out, stand outside with your coffee if it's not pouring with rain and snowing and freezing. And just if there is sunrise, and even if it's cloudy, just kind of look up to the clouds, to the sky, and just acknowledge there's light coming through. It's a new day. And that's kind of like where I start with my day. And I have got into a routine. Discipline is really hard, right? So, if you're trying to do things that you normally don't want to do, it's quite difficult. So I find that I try to change one thing. And then when I've got that down into a routine, I add in another thing, and I'm still doing that. And sometimes things change and they don't work for me anymore, and I change that. But I'm enjoying that process, and I think that's a really good tip for anyone who's trying to improve their kind of, lifestyle. Start with a small change. Wake up in the morning at the same time every day. You can fluctuate that with the seasons a little bit by an hour, but try and keep in a rhythm, and try and eat within half an hour of waking. And I always think about my food. I know it sounds crazy, but I've been one of those people who's like at my desk, shoveling it down in the past, not even conscious of what I'm eating. And now that I've kind of gone through this process, I understand there is a mental connection to your digestion. So if you're a person with IBS or any issues, stress, you can actually take some time to breathe, to take your fight or flight down into your parasympathetic nervous system before you eat, and then you can think about your food. So for me, I have eggs every morning, and I say, I'm so grateful. It might be in my head, but I'm really grateful for these organic eggs, for the chickens that laid these eggs so that I could have this delicious breakfast and feel that I've, put the right nutrients in my body. So I think that's the things that I try and do. So I try and go outside. I say it's going to be a great day. I don't look at the news. I don't go scrolling, on mindless social media. I eat my food with a mindful mind, and it's like, grateful for this food. I take my time. I sit at the table. The amount of people who stand up and eat, sit down, and it helps your digestion.
Or watch TV while they have their dinners.
That's it. Yeah, to watch TV, on your lap. So that's not to say that we can't do that ever, but it's about when you're building those habits, the important ones that matter are the ones you do every day. So I heard this great analogy. It was, you go to the hygienist every 6 months and they give you the very lovely clean teeth, but it's not the hygienist who really cleans your teeth. It's you. Every single day when you wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth and you do it before bed. That's what counts. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people miss when they're trying to change their lifestyle. It's like, I want the quick thing. I want to lose weight quickly. I want to, fix this thing now. I want to be this weight by this date. But actually, the most important thing is just gradually building in healthy habits over time that you can stick to.
And I think this concept was explained really well in James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, where he really talks about that incremental. And you think you don't have a habit, you do have a habit. It's just, is it a good habit or is it a bad habit? And how do you change that? And I found his book was quite impactful from that sense of just breaking everything down into smaller pieces.
So there's this really good line that I've heard, which says, if you have a really good routine and you break your good habit once, that's a mistake.
Yeah.
If you break it twice, you're creating a new routine.
Yeah.
So a new habit. So yeah, it's kind of like, it's a good way to think about it. So you're not, you're not going off onto a different tangent. It's easy. It's so easy to happen because as a human being, our instinct is to go for the easiest route.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pick the easiest option.
Yeah. And then we tend to, when we've broken the habit once, then we throw in the towel and we're like, well, that's it. I've done it now.
I've done it once. Yeah.
I've done it now. It's broken. Well, might as well carry on. But actually, that's fine.
Yeah. Just my streak.
Yes, exactly. So let's talk a little bit about perimenopause now, because this is really a hot topic, not only for women in midlife, but I think it's really sort of coming to the fore now, and people are starting to talk about it a lot more on social media, and it's getting the spotlight that it deserves. And it's something that we all face, as we hit midlife. But we're really unprepared for it, because up until this point, I mean, I'd never really heard about it. I'd heard like rumblings about it over the years, but not really truly understanding what it meant. So how does diet and nutrition play a role in easing some of the symptoms? And I'm asking this question because I know there's this whole movement of HRT, and it's great and wonderful. I'm not saying to anybody, don't take HRT, but this is also for those ladies that have tried HRT and it hasn't worked, or they've got the increased risk and have decided not to go HRT, or if maybe you feel like your symptoms are not as intense and you want to try the holistic route first, how does nutrition and diet help us?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the whole lifestyle thing is huge when it comes to your hormones, right? So as I mentioned it earlier, we are from a generation of a low-fat diet culture, and we now know the important role that good fats play in regulating your hormones. So I would say to make sure you're getting some good fats in your diet for starters. Also, so good fats, just for people who don't know, that's things like avocados, olive oil, nuts and seeds, really lovely, like omega-3 rich salmon, oily fish, things like that. So you can eat those kind of things regularly, and that will help you to get really good fats into your body, right? So that's important, number one. And I think a lot of women that I work with are very much getting to that point and doing the wrong things from the intention of losing weight. So it's a case of, oh, I'm suddenly getting this kind of extra fat around my belly. I know, I'll do what I did 10 years ago when I, lost weight before, and then it doesn't work. And what they're actually doing is restricting calories, fasting, cutting their breakfast out, and all they're doing is rising cortisol, getting their body to be in a stress state and holding on to more body fat. So I think it's about understanding your body's changed, and so your strategies must change too, right? So first thing is eat a proper breakfast within half an hour of waking and try and include protein and good fats. And then I would say eat regularly, have 3 meals in your day, just normal advice. It's nothing controversial. It's going back to common sense. Eat whole foods. You don't want to have your insulin spiking throughout the day. So things that are, white carbohydrates like pasta and bread and pastries and so on are going to have the same effect in the body as sugar. So if you're eating a lot of carbohydrate-rich foods throughout the day, your insulin is constantly spiking, and that's going to have a negative impact on your overall health. So eat lots of fish, meat, fruit, veggies, and whole foods, basically, and have 3 normal meals a day, and keep it within your window of movement. So you're fueling for your day ahead. It's nothing crazy scientific, although there is science behind it, but there shouldn't be, because it just makes sense. You know what I mean? You shouldn't have to prove that works. Sleep is a huge thing. And I know that women are struggling with their sleep, waking up with hot flashes, that kind of thing. So I know it's, again, a thing that people don't want to hear, but alcohol is kind of like one of the worst things for your hormones in perimenopause. It rises, the negative estrogen if you're drinking a lot, like I was. It disrupts your sleep. It disrupts your hormones. Your adrenaline will spike in the middle of the night. And then even when you stop drinking, your body is so used to being in that pattern that it takes a while for homeostasis to happen. And I'm really glad I read that, because if you read online, what happens when you stop drinking? Well, within 24 hours, you feel great. Within a week, it's just not true. It's not true. So if you're in a long pattern of regularly drinking, it takes a long time for your body to rebalance, and particularly in this phase where everything is being thrown at you. Your hormones are out of whack. Your body's changing shape. You're feeling bad about yourself. You're not sleeping. And then what are you going to do? You think, just take the edge off, have a glass of wine. And that's going to impact further. So I know it's an unpopular thing, but reduces your alcohol as much as possible and see how you feel. It's like sometimes I think we forget how good we can feel when we have a break.
And I read that you tend to become more sensitive to insulin as you sort of go through when the estrogen levels decrease. So that's why it's so important. Yeah. Okay.
It is. And I think people will say, oh, my whole life I've been eating this bread, and now it's just affecting me, and I've had something to eat and I'm hungry again. It's like that insulin is spiking and then dropping, you're getting that crash, and then you want to have more. So it's that when you have whole foods, you feel satiated. Fats satiate you. They keep you full for longer, and they digest more slowly. So you're not feeling like that, emptying your tummy all the time. And another really big one is exercise. I know that that's kind of outside of the health and nutrition that I sort of teach, but I have found that there is, no substitute for really good exercise on top of your routine. I now go to the gym more than I've ever gone in my whole life. And that's crazy. I'm 47. I'm literally at the gym 5-6 times a week. And I need that. I need that.
Yeah.
I need to go to the gym in the morning. I need to raise my dopamine, particularly because I have ADHD. I need to be in my community so I can come back, feel good about myself, and carry on with my day. And I know for sure the days when I don't do that, much more, I struggle much more to be productive. So by going to the gym in the morning, it really boosts that. And not also the effects of the exercise on the body, weight training, functional training, doing cardio. It's really important to have a mix of everything and to keep your mobility going as well, because dropping in estrogen is going to, impact your body in many, many ways, so you want to keep everything working as best you can.
So for women who are listening and they're juggling the roles that we have, we feel burnt out, especially in midlife. You've been a caregiver, you've been climbing the corporate ladder, maybe you suspect that you have ADHD or you're trying to navigate perimenopause. What's one small compassionate step that she can take today to support herself, would you say?
Unfortunately, the step is quite a big one because I think you've got to get to a point where it's self-acceptance. I wish there was a quick step. I think the first thing is to acknowledge that. You've got to acknowledge it. You've got to say, I'm doing too much. I'm not looking after myself. I need something more than this, because without that, you can't move forward. So it's the acknowledgement is really important. I think as well, it's okay. It's okay that I'm not able to juggle all of these things at the moment. It's okay because it's too much. And I think if you are able to have that conversation with people in your family, that's really important, because otherwise it sits inside you and then you grow resentful and you grow grudgy about what you're doing because you're internalizing everything, and that's really bad for you, and that's going to compound everything you're feeling about yourself. So it's about being able to talk about that, about saying, hey, I don't know what I'm going to do about this, but I'm feeling this way. And maybe you talk to your family, maybe you talk to your friends, but someone, you've got to get it out, and not in a ranty way, but like something's got to change. You're allowed to say that things aren't good. You're allowed to say you need help. You're allowed to say it's tough, and you're allowed to ask for help.
Well said. Thank you.
I think that's really important to kind of not feel like you've got to do it all, and stop feeling guilty. Ladies, stop feeling guilty. You don't have to do it. Really don't. And that horrible guilt feeling and that imposter syndrome and all that stuff. You're more amazing than you think, and you're more amazing than you know, and you've got to own it. And that's where you need best friends and groups of women to tell you like how awesome you are.
Yeah, community is important. Community is so important for us.
So important.
So
it's one of the biggest factors of longevity is community. So it's more important than we know.
Yeah. If you could go back and give your younger self, before the burnout, before the diagnosis, one piece of advice, what would that be?
I think it would be to just remember to put yourself first sometimes. As much as I think it would have fallen on deaf ears, I think that's what I would try. I would have tried to communicate the importance of putting yourself first. And just, being able to say, it's okay that I need that time. It's okay that I need, me time.
Yeah.
And I don't think we do that as women, as much as we need to. It's really important. It's really important.
Now you've started your own business called Being Optimum. So what's next for you and your business and the work that you do?
lots of exciting things coming up. I'm teaming with a very good friend of mine who is an extremely experienced personal trainer, and we're creating a program which is going to help support women in our age group who have got, who've tried all the things that has been out there before when it comes to exercise and diet, and we're really focusing in on a very specific program for women our age. And I think that it's great to see the emerging science that's coming out now that is really designed around women. As you might have seen, only 7% of studies are done on women. Yeah. So when we hear information like fasting and ice baths, they're really designed around the benefits that they have for men.
Yeah.
So we are looking at female-focused science and creating programs that really work to support our health and longevity so that we can live long and strong.
Amazing. That sounds amazing. And I'm really excited to watch that journey and maybe participate myself.
Yeah, I would love to have you. We're actually doing a 10-day reset in September.
Oh, nice.
So that's a free reset that we're just doing as a community for friends of ours and people we have in our space. And it's really that sort of reset after the summer holidays. I think everyone's focused on dry January and kind of going back to the gym, but actually that's only after 2 weeks of Christmas holidays. If you think about the summer holidays of 6 weeks, it's like, please, I need a schedule, I need a routine. I need
Absolutely
to get organized. So that's it. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, as much as the kids are like clamoring up the walls that they need routine, so do we.
Exactly that.
Yeah. So finally, so where can our listeners find you if they want to connect, if they want to work with you?
Thank you. I'm on Being Optimum, so it's being.optimum, and that's on Instagram. That's mainly where I operate, but I do have the same handle at Facebook too. But yeah, go for Instagram, and that's where I'm more active.
Okay, amazing. Well,
and I've got a link tree there, so you can link out to all my website and my programs that I'm running.
Okay. Amazing. Thank you so much, Arianna. Thank you so much for coming and talking today about health and nutrition. I think it's a really great topic and it's really important for us in midlife. And yeah, that was fantastic. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.